One after another they come, never hearing those sounds from the secret garden. Never suspecting they will soon be making those sounds. One after another they check in and pray for the day they can check out. Motel Hell.
Hey, hello Rotters, and welcome back to the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best and worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. First off, I'll just have to say, you'll have to excuse my voice a little bit. I've somewhat lost it. I was at a wedding yesterday, and I was doing what all performers do when they're at a wedding, and that is sing the highest harmony possible over every track played at the disco. And so, yeah, I've tired out my voice somewhat. Also, thank you very much for all the lovely responses I've had for last week's intro episode with the wonderful Mick Garris. Yeah, a lot of you have got in touch on Twitter or sent emails, and it really means a lot, even though mostly it's people just in disbelief that I was part of the Brit Awards Michael Jackson scandal in 1996. But hey, whatever, that's fine by me. So this week, it's our first proper film episode, and we're going to be looking at 1980s Motel Hell, the B-movie horror comedy that I personally think really stands out from the era, possibly because it felt quite original in the sea of slashers that were the early 80s. What do you think? Let me know, have you seen it? I think it's a cracking little film, and to discuss it, this week we have a returning duo. We have Stephen Fry and Joel McHale, and actually this film was kind of chosen by Joel last time they were on when we did the episode on Troll 2. Joel mentioned that this was his sort of childhood gateway horror, the first one he sort of saw and enjoyed, and this is the first time he's revisited it in 62 years. So, yeah, answers within of what he thought about it. Stick around at the end to hear what film we will be covering next week. It's a good one and one of my all-time favourites. I know I say that a lot. I have a lot of favourites. It's just because I just have a lot of history with these films. History! That was Michael Jackson. It was me. It wasn't Michael Jackson, it was me doing Michael Jackson. Okay, so let's get into it. Love you loads. Oh! Also, by the way, on Patreon, yesterday we just released a new episode on 1987's Prison with Viggo Mortensen. It's such a good film, and I haven't seen it for so long, and I know a lot of you love that film. So yeah, that episode is out now on Patreon, so go to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot. Okay, alright, cool, fine, great. On with the show. And Stephen, you're back. Oh, there you go.
In action.
Take two. Stephen, you're back.
Oh, he's done it again. You've got it. This is pure Joe.
I'm just gonna keep going because he did this last time, I remember as well. Joel, I'll start with you. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, come on.
I can't help it. You guys sound so much better.
No.
Joel has been to London since
I was just there.
Gathered.
Yeah. I saw the Book of Mormon.
No, you didn't.
No.
I was going to say, that's rude.
Thanks for dressing up for your own podcast, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Do you like it?
It's you really went all out.
Yeah, this is a real snake around my neck as well.
Yeah. Thank you for yes, definitely introduce me first since Stephen has way more credits.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'll move over to Stephen then. Hello, you're back. Welcome.
Lovely to be here again, and thank you for putting me through another extraordinary 90 or 100 minutes of horror in every sense of that word, including its original sense, which is the raising of the hair. You probably knew that.
No. What do you mean? Tell me.
Horrific means it makes your hair stand on end. Literally.
Oh, I did not know that.
Me
So-
neither.
Horrific is based on the
Hair.
Oh.
Yeah. The hair rising.
Wow.
Hairific,
Yeah.
hair raising. So it means hair raising.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
Ah, well, look at that. There you go. We've started with the facts. That's how we started
That's
this conversation.
signature Stephen Fry, because he could walk up to him and be like, "Hey, you want a glass of water?" He's like, "Do you know how they make these bubbles?" And I'll be like, "How?" They're like, "Well, it's good." And then you would go into like the chemical makeup of a petroleum-based plastic. And it's actually a Korean spirit. What is that?
Well,
super powerful.
The Russian for water is very like the English for water. It's voda. Voda sounds like water. And as you probably know, in Russian, if you want to make a diminutive, you put a K in it. So you'd be Stevki. Stevke is little Stephen. Stevke. And little water is vodka.
Aha. But it's not little water, is it?
No.
It is. No.
It's a lot more.
But back when I used to drink, I made that mistake many times
Yes.
of drinking
Wait,
it like
back
water.
when you used to drink? What are you, like 13 years old?
I'm pushing 40, Joel.
What?
I
You
know.
look
Yeah.
terrific.
He does, doesn't he? So,
Thank you very much. It's the lack of sun in England keeps our skin nice and tight.
I turned 50 this year, so I look kind of like Beetlejuice now.
Oh no, you look good. You look good for 60. Did you say 60?
I had to put a lot of hair on to have this installed.
I should be 65 in a week and a bit. So
Holy
there
crap,
go.
you are a
That's
full
ridiculous.
senior citizen.
I really am. There's no getting away from it.
Did they send you
60?
the AARP magazine when you were 50? Because that's what I'm getting now.
Did you really?
Yeah, they started sending it this year. I was like, fuck you guys.
I can travel free on buses and the underground and everywhere.
Yeah.
And,
And you probably get your state pension.
yes.
They're like everywhere in not Los Angeles.
Let's get down to it.
Right, so I thought to get us in the mood, to warm us up, we're going to play a little game. Okay?
all right.
So we're going to have a little general movie quiz. It's just 5 questions, but there's a twist. So in honor of the gorgeous fantastic. But in honor of the
In
the
honor
bulletproof
of the largest microphone anyone has ever seen on a podcast, we're going to play a game.
this one.
Well, it's also in the foreground, so
Well, yes,
Yes,
that's
it
the
looks-
thing.
yeah.
Like a Hitchcock
It looks
telephone.
like you have a microphone that is this big, and you can hear, aliens and things from deep space.
Yeah, forced perspective.
I'm
we call
never
that.
going to allow us to get to this game or to the discussion of Motel
His
Hell.
father was Jamie Webb of the telescope. So
Are you shitting me?
yes,
No.
Dear.
Yes.
Holy crap. Everybody in England's, wow.
We're all part of
I know that-
dynasties.
Is every single person in England just like, oh, no, yes, he helped invent the steam engine. He was Albert Einstein's, he was his tailor.
Yes,
he
exactly.
suppressed a rebellion in India, killing 700,000 people.
Ah, wonderful. So, your dad invented a telescope?
James Webb Telescope, the NASA one that's out,
That's one out there right now.
the amazing one.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Webb Telescope.
Fucking dude, why are you doing musicals? You should just sit in your pile of money.
No, it's not true. My dad was a pop singer.
I do have a friend. Her sister turned it on. Literally, she was in charge of.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
She
impressive.
turned. She's like,
And I turn it off.
there you go. Ah, see, that's one of my favorites.
Full circle.
Uh,
Anyway, back to the quiz.
Yes.
So it has a twist. So yeah, in honor of the gorgeous bulletproof pig head at the end in Motel Hell. So you must replace the last word of each answer with the word pig. For example,
is this a quiz or just?
yeah, it's a movie quiz. It's just a bit of fun. So, for example, if I said which 1990 romantic comedy starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere was based on the play Pygmalion, the answer would be Pretty Pig.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Gotcha.
I was gonna say episode 1.
Okay, so your buzzer is your name. Okay, here we go. Question 1. What is the title of the Oscar-winning 1993 historical drama directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Liam Neeson and
Oh my
Ralph Fiennes?
Schindler's
fine.
Pig. I mean,
Schindler's
this
Pig.
is horrible. Of all those movies to name, it's like you go with the Holocaust one to get great. What a wonderful way to.
And as a Jew, may I say, a pig is not kosher.
Well,
that
exactly.
Jeez.
So, question 2. Which 1938 screwball comedy starring Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn and a steam-sealing leopard?
It happened
It's
one pig.
No, it's bringing up pig.
Yes, bringing up pigs, something I was doing recently after a particularly dodgy Chinese takeaway.
Oh, hey.
Thank you. Question 3. Which 1985 sci-fi comedy directed by Robert Zemeckis was our first introduction to generational hero Marty McFly?
Back to the pig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I the only one enjoying this?
I'm loving it, but Joel is.
Oh, I'm supposed to say my name. Oh, right. Joel. All right, I'll let you. Steven gets a free pass at this one.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, question 4. 2 left. Which 1987 comedy saw Ted Danson, Tom Selleck, and Steve Guttenberg involuntarily raising an infant?
Oh, yes, that's right. 3 men and a little pig.
Yes.
Is
3
that
men and a
right?
pig.
Well,
yeah, I don't want to
that was
see
the
that
sequel.
movie.
Oh,
Okay.
no, that's right.
3 Men and a Little Lady was the
Yeah,
sequel.
that was the
Oh,
sequel.
yes, 3 men and a pig, isn't it?
But very close.
And finally, question 5. Which 1990 comedy drama adapted from Carrie Fisher's semi-autobiographical novel of the same name starred Shirley MacLaine and Meryl Streep?
Shall we say it together?
Yeah.
Postcards from the Pig. Well done.
There you go. Thank you very much. Well, I enjoyed that. And that got us nice for
That was so dumb
Yes.
and fun
Um,
and great.
But Joel, let's start with Motel Hell with you. So you have a relationship with this film. Remind us about that.
All right. So I dated Motel Hell, a VHS copy in high school. No, so I know this movie because in 2nd grade, I went over to Jason Cusack's house for a big slumber party for his birthday, and his mom was like, we're downstairs in the basement, the whole class, like 30 of us, and she's like, you're not allowed to watch Showtime because there's that scary movie on, and it's going to scare you all. Of course, she left, and we immediately turned it on, and so the fond memories are that it was, I remember wanting to be scareder than I was, and I thought, we must be scared. So that's how that started, and I always thought it was such a good idea for a film. And now watching it last night, I was like, this sucks.
No.
It's a terrible movie, but the ideas are all very good, like the bearing people up to their heads.
Yeah.
Of course, you have Cliff from Cheers is one of the guys.
Yes, well spotted.
Yeah, and then turning him into beef jerky, that was such a good idea. And then the ending scene should have been just wonderfully spectacular with the pig head and the shotgun and the chainsaw. I had Boyd and Brad over last night, and we watched, and I was just like, "What the hell? What did I think this was so good?" It's just very peculiar. It's a peculiar film.
That's what it is. But I have to say, having been put through first Slugs by Mr. Webb, and then Trolls 2, this was such a leap in quality. I mean,
really?
Yeah, it just in production values. I mean, it's by no means brilliant, but
Right.
But if you remember Troll 2, I mean, come on.
I agree with production, but I would say Troll 2 was more interesting,
Well,
more
Really?
watchable. Oh yeah, because I found it
Sorry, could you say that again?
yeah, even serious.
serious. Like
Serious
I
shocked.
disagree. I have become a critic because I tried at one point to get this movie made again. I wanted to remake it.
Really?
It would obviously be very different, but there was just long, boring parts that I was like, what are we doing here?
I mean, there's a sort of hole in the middle in terms of the younger brother is really a pretty poor performance, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Rory Calhoun, who was a genuine star. I mean, kind of between A and B, if you like, as a star in his day.
I mean,
a lot of westerns that I've seen
and
Rory Calhoun.
He was in Spartacus.
And he was in Spartacus, and so he was a real. And he has a new set of teeth for the film, which is slightly off-putting. Noticing
It
that
is terrible.
his
That's
teeth are a lot
terrifying.
younger than he is, and for a British person, that's peculiar because, as you know, we keep our teeth in our mouth. Don't we?
Well,
Actually, Stevie has a nice set of reasonably. But
I
then
feel like as far as British
Reasonably.
and your teeth, you guys have really come a long way in the last 25 years. I mean, if you had said London at one point would be the center of great food, you'd be like, okay, let's calm down. You need to stop. Yeah.
But it's true. You're right. But anyway, yeah, back to our thing. Yes, Roy Calhoun is good. I think he's excellent. He's sort of, because he does the sweetness of the old guy so well. And it's a sort of mixture of Sweeney Todd and Southern Gothic in a way, isn't it? I mean,
Southern Gothic,
there's almost a genre of, Deliverance is the kind of absolute apogee of that kind of film, a masterpiece. And then there are the ones that are, Todd, no, not Todd Hooper,
Toby, yeah.
Toby Hooper, who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is the obvious other one.
Masterpiece.
To compare it with.
And that one is genuinely terrifying.
Absolutely. And that old Leatherface and all those awful kind of...
And the screaming and the running and the...
And obviously, yeah.
And the weird on the body. I mean, that movie...
Motel Hell can't cope with that. And it has some of those tropes you get. The drugged out figures in the minivan.
Yeah.
Who obviously, as in all this kind of the morality of these films, almost deserve to be killed because they're smoking weed. Good gracious.
Hippies.
That's how wicked they are.
They have tattoos.
And then you get the swingers, this bizarre couple, which is such an odd scene, with the girl going, yeah, do it to me. Tied up. And I mean, it's just bizarre.
It really is. It's funny you mentioned Toby Hooper because he was originally attached to this at the very beginning when it was being developed. And because this didn't have any of the dark humour originally when this was written, it was a straight-up horror film. It was much more graphic and much more violent, and there was some bestiality in it. And it got changed because the director, Kevin Connor, he's actually British. So he managed to get the job off another film that he'd done. And he was like, I want to take out a lot of the gratuitousness and add some dark humour, a bit more a British humour, because what I like about the sort of satirical and spoofy elements of this one...
a lot of people think it's a real British comedy, but go ahead.
No, I do think a lot of the comedy, though, because it's played...
It's like an episode of The Vicar of Dibley.
It's just like, it's very Fawlty Towers. It's played so straight, the satire, I think, as opposed to, the sort of John Waters type character where it's real hicks sort of going, where's them pibs going, and all that. And I think it makes it a little darker. There's obviously a lot of Psycho and a lot of Texas Chainsaw in there, but it kind of...
Straw Dogs was another British country kind of era, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good.
And there is a line you could draw in comic terms from the sister, who is a very eccentric figure, and one of the lead girls in the film in the series In the Country. Have you seen that? Which they've done an American version of now called
This Country.
This Country.
Yes.
It is an American version now called Welcome to Flange or something.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly that. And it's funny because when I was rewatching this, I realised that growing up, the only depiction I ever saw of any kind of outback or southern or boondocks or swampy kind of people from America, they were always inbred sick killers or something like that, and then I thought it's probably more about the films I was watching.
It's pretty similar. It's like a documentary.
And we wonder why America is still on the brink of a civil war.
Yeah, I lived in Georgia all last year, so I can tell you all that.
Oh wow, it did quite well. I say quite well. It did all right, this film, with reviews in 1980, and it was
It did.
It did.
You noticed that? And it was.
I don't know why I sound like I'm shit. I mean, I am shit. I am so more kind of, when I rewatched, I was like, oh, this is very different than I remember.
I'd never seen it before, and you're absolutely right. There is no movie is worse than the one you saw and loved as a teenager or an old child, and then you see again and you're disappointed.
Yeah, Raging Bull, Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But you know that thing where you tell a new friend, "Oh, you've got to watch this movie. I loved it when I was a child." And then you watch it and you think, "What the hell is that?"
Joel, is that what happened when you were trying to get it remade? You told all these producers, "Listen, I really want to remake this film. I haven't rewatched it, but I remember it's wonderful."
Well, we tried. Scott Derrickson, the director who just did Black Phone, we were like, "We'll do it," and MGM would not sell it. Would not give it to us. We're like, what are you guys doing with it?
Right.
They're like, we may remake it. I was like, well, we'll remake it. And then they were like, no.
That's so. They do this, don't they?
Yeah.
That's like what
Dog in the manger kind of attitude. It's absurd.
So weird. Anyway, the lead, the police officer who went on to do Chips, he was on this very popular show called Chips here in America right after that.
Good Lord.
And he did a one-person show, which he turned into an HBO special about his wife dying of cancer, which was extremely good. So it's such an interesting thing to see him in, when you see, because I grew up with him on Chips.
Was he? There was a blonde one and a sort of Latinx one.
Right. That Eric Estrada, and then what was his name? The other guy, and then he was replaced by another guy. But also a show now when you watch it, you go, "What is happening?" What some of those early '80s shows are really
Starsky and Hutch, Kojak, and I used to love them all. Jim Rockford.
What a masterpiece.
And Harry O. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean David O. No, David Jensen.
David Jensen.
Yeah, Harry O. was a series.
See?
Sorry,
we didn't get that one.
This is just an old man babbling.
We had Chips and the Love Boat. No, not. But that guy. So he had quite a career. He's still alive. What a weird thing to say. He's probably pretty young. But there's a scene. How about the scene with the logic of the girl? So her boyfriend and her.
Oh yes, Bruce.
The boyfriend died. They're like, sorry,
Bo, the boyfriend.
Yeah, he's like, so sorry. He's dead.
I buried him.
You'll stay here. They call the cops, and the cops like, well, they buried him, so nothing we can do. Anyway, see you later. I'll try to date you in about a day and a half.
Meanwhile, you'll fall in love with my wildly overaged brother, who is.
Well, yes, I suppose that really what this film is about is Stockholm Syndrome, because she completely wildly falls in love with him, never even questions about leaving the motel and this new life.
Or the boyfriend who's like, well, I guess that's that.
Even when he turns on his own sister with a snarl and a slap at a picnic by the river. And she kind of overlooks it, doesn't she? It's very strange, but...
Was it supposed to be funny? That part?
I'm very hard to tell, but swimming in the tube in the little pond.
Yes. Oh, where she tries to drown her.
That pond. It was shot in Santa Clarita, which is up. Well, it's up the 5 and kind of near the Great America Magic Mountain, but it is
a theme park.
It's like a reservoir.
Valencia, and it's 20 degrees hotter there right now, and it's 100 degrees here today. So, and for Celsius, I think that's like 790. So anyway,
35 or 60.
Yeah, I don't understand the metric system. No, what I don't get, by the way, in England, still miles per hour on the fucking roads.
I know we're very inconsistent. We would never.
Even the Canadians committed to kilometers. So
we would never do that. For some reason, we're wedded to the mile, aren't we? We would.
Yeah.
But everything else is metric. I know. I also height. Most people express their height in feet and inches.
Yes, I still do.
And usually weight in stone. Actually, younger people are more.
Do they still say stone?
I do. Well, you don't even get stone because you have pounds without stone.
Yeah. No, it's. Did you know that when Canada switched to the metric system in the 60s, I didn't even realize it was the 60s, but what's his name? His dad did it, and like they did it in a week, and then like planes fell out of the sky because they're like, oh right, liters are different. Below told me about that. I was like, I didn't know any of that. He was dead. So what am I saying? We're talking about this. Yeah. So anyway, back to miles per hour. Oh, I drove on the left side of the road, by the way.
Yes.
All over
Did
the
you
place.
enjoy that? Did you took to it naturally?
I was terrified, and then I just got.
How about the roundabouts? Did you find them?
I just went
straight over.
On the last day, I drove through Trafalgar Square and drove through Piccadilly Circus to get the car back, and I was like, "This is the last." I was like, it was like a level of a video game.
That is
where I was behind black cabs, like honking. Riding on the ass of buses.
We call it Grand Purloining Automobile, which is like your Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
At an English version.
Anyway, back to it was shot in Santa Clarita, which is there's no natural lakes around here because it's all desert.
Yeah.
Everything is all Man-Made way back when by Mulholland, and that particular thing, I was like, that is just like a pond. I mean, it's not
reservoir.
It really was tragic.
Cemented in, and they were like, "Well, this is our little place." And anyway,
Yeah, it really is.
I must have been dirty.
I'll tell you what did hold up and did work for me. How kind of fucking scary and uncanny the gurgling heads were with the vocal cord slit. That actually really unnerved
And you
me.
saw the stitching? That was terrifying.
Yes. Although the pedant in me, which is a horrible creature who comes out like a monster every time I watch these films, would be saying, actually, why are you going? You can whisper.
Yeah.
You can whisper and be heard. You don't need vocal cords to whisper.
Of course.
If they had given him a brain injury, that would have.
Something that in your version you presumably have that little laser into the Broca's area in the brain which controls speech, and then that would do it. Then it would be creepy, and you could plant them in your secret garden.
I just learned there's a place in the brain called a Brocazy. And also when he puts the ropes around their necks and just pulls them all out at once. That as a kid, I was just like, this is terrifying, and I mean that was really wonderfully done and scary and weirdly pedestrian. And now they're out. Okay, great.
It's all very laboured, and I don't really. Do we ever really find out why they bury them to their necks and mesmerise them? Does it make the meat more tender, or I don't think we find out. They just do it.
I think you're right.
That's a good assumption. Yes, we know that, don't we, with cattle and things? That the less stress they're under,
right?
Because the stress hormones go into the meat and tightens.
Yes, so they found the perfect. I wonder. I'd really like to see their trial and error journey to get to the disco lit spinning spirals and up to the neck. What else did they try? Strobe lights and playing Wagner backwards.
Yes, exactly. In its favour is that it's available to watch and stream. It's not too long. I don't think it's quite quick watch.
Yeah, it's
isn't it?
90 minutes or 91,
over,
which still seemed long
for a B movie.
As you said, in the middle, it's just like what? This is now they're all part. Remember, I mean,
it's
the
romantic.
The sexual assault takes place,
and you get this disc jockey who appears,
Wolfman Jack.
Yes,
Wolfman Jack, quite a famous disc jockey.
Yes,
and he, for some reason, is a preacher who appears on television in the early scenes, and then there's a weird thing, which is presumably supposed to be funny, of the policeman reading pornography.
Supposed to be funny.
I'm gonna need that. It's got he had to either been friends with the director, or they were like, we got a guy. He's gonna show up for one day. He'll shoot the stuff in the preacher in the morning. He'll shoot that in the afternoon. Then he is out, and you have to give him $20,000 or whatever it was back in 1980 for them to make an appearance.
Is Kevin Connor alive? Has he done interviews about it? Do you know much about the production?
I did read one interview when he was saying only that one about him saying how he got the job and they were looking for a fresh director for a B movie horror, and when he got it, he was, more inclined to take out a lot of the nasty stuff and replace it with some satirical dark humor. But he's he in the 70s before this, he did some big sort of epic adventure films like The Land That Time Forgot and things like that. He made those sort of movies, and then moved into a couple of horrors.
Did you get Mystery Science Theater? And then,
yes.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. This would be. I don't know why they never did this movie.
No,
they should have done. That's the one with the little silhouettes of the audience in the front there. Yes,
Joel Hodgman.
Joel.
Not John. John Hodgman is a great man, but Joel Hodgman. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. You have the floor.
No, I was going to ask you, Stephen. I don't know if Joel, if Joel saw this or if you've told him about it, but this is basically a human farm, and I realised you've actually been to one, haven't you?
I have. It was a most extraordinary experience. It's called the Body Farm.
Yeah.
Was there a girl in distress whose boyfriend had just been buried, and then she fell in love with the farmer?
Well,
fell in love with Stephen.
If there were, they unfortunately had been silenced permanent-like.
So you got to go to the Body Farm.
The Body Farm, it was in Knoxville, Tennessee. Her Go Vols, as you probably know.
Go Vols?
Go Vols. The Volunteers.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Volunteer State,
whatever.
Tennessee.
Go Dogs.
That's their football team.
Go Gators.
Anyway, so I was told, I was doing this documentary, I was traveling around in a black London cab, going to every state in the Union. And we'd been in Asheville, in North Carolina, and gone on a balloon trip over the Blue Ridge Mountains and landed in Tennessee, got in a car, and all I was told, and this was the fun of doing the documentary, was that I would go to a particular place, and it was put onto the sat-nav, and I'd be met. And there was the camera crew in the back of the car, of course. They vaguely knew what was happening. We arrived at this kind of mesh fence, this chicken wire, chain link. And there was a woman standing in front of it, and she handed me these kind of booties, these little plastic booties that forensic pathologists wear. And she had a key and opened a padlock, and we went in. And she said, "Welcome to the body farm." And it is the first of its kind in the world. People leave their bodies to the Department of Forensic Anthropology at Tennessee University. And what you do is you get a body. Now, let's say, here's the thing you would do.
This is for the appetizer, or you get the main. Is it a coursed meal, or you get to choose? I'm confused.
Well, here's an example of something they would do. They would wrap a body that had been given to them, a fresh cadaver, in a rug, and they'd put it in the trunk of a car, and they'd leave it there for 2 days. Then they'd take it out, then they'd bury it in part of the woods of the garden, and then they'd look at it in another week. Now, why would they do that? Because it is more than common for someone to murder their spouse, for example, wrap them in a rug, throw them in the trunk of the car, go off and get drunk for 2 days, and then think, shit, what am I going to do with the body? Drive it to the woods and bury it. It's so common, and so in order to find the time of death and to see exactly what's happened to a body, they practice basically being a murderer with a body. And that's the place where they discovered the whole science of entomological time, i.e. insects, when the insects hatch. You remember Gruesome Grissom in CSI Las Vegas? He was obsessed, the Billy Peterson character was obsessed with it.
There's a television show about crime scene investigation?
Would you know?
Just the one.
Yeah, just the one for every city in America.
It wasn't popular, canceled, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did it smell?
Well, that's the thing.
You never ever forget it. It was as if Satan had crawled down your throat and pulled your guts up with it. I mean, it was just unspeakable. There was a bin, a kind of trash can, and
you can see the footage of this, and Stephen literally just goes, "No!"
He opens it, and there's a kind of soup with bones sticking out of it, which is a body that is putrefied and liquefied. I mean, things that happen to us, Joel, are not pleasant. So I suppose horror films, of course, to return to
look at that. That's called bringing it back. Bringing it back to where we were.
They do play with our primal fear.
I am
disgust and horror and shame and terror.
I do want to know where you ate afterward. Did you go to the Waffle House? Did you go to Waffle House?
It was one of.
Did you vomit? Just right there.
I came very close to vomiting. Didn't actually throw up, but I was so close.
I bet you can't explain how it smells, and you can only another person who's smelt that knows what that smells like.
I know everything I say is bullshit, but is it true? Someone said years ago to me, like, the one smell that all human beings can't stand is the smell of rotting flesh. Is that true?
I mean, I find the taste and smell of coriander or cilantro, as you call it, absolutely repulsive. But it's low down compared to putrefying human flesh.
So what if one of the bodies was wrapped in coriander? Wrapped in
it would be horrible.
See, to someone like me, that would make it much more palatable.
You like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I love that. Wait, coriander's the same as what?
Cilantro, you call it.
You call it coriander?
Yeah. We call herbs.
I get that.
We call oregano.
Yeah, eggplant. We say.
We call basil. Yeah. Basil is basil.
Yeah.
What else do we do?
Zucchini. We say courgette.
Courgette. Yeah.
What about rocket? Do you call something? I guess it's Italian.
We do have rocket. Yeah, or radicchio. I think is that the same.
Yeah.
And you guys do a lot of U's into your words.
Color and
next to all those O's.
Fuck you. Yes.
Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah. I just remember going when I put on a Benetton shirt. I was like, "Look at me,
United
Colors.
Oh, international. My Benetton shirt on. I love my Benetton shirt. All right,
we're moving away from our subject, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I would say that these kind of experiences do raise all manner of human instincts and impulses and feelings. They do, even when they're not a masterpiece. You can't compare it to The Exorcist, or indeed even the Texas Chainsaw
or
Massacre.
The Shining that came out, or Friday the 13th movies. I think maybe I should go back and watch, or Halloween, which is terrifying, which all happened around that time. Shining was 1981.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
82.
Certainly in the 80s, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think why this didn't do too badly review-wise, it's not because of the quality of the actual film. I think because it was in 1980 when there was a sea of Halloween rip-offs, and the sort of cookie-cutter slasher format was just being repeated and repeated to death, which didn't follow narrative, And it's not thick, but there is a narrative throughout this, and there is there's comments on religion and sort of. It's a bit of an eco movie, the stuff they're talking about, and of course, the big kicker at the end is his dying confession is that he used preservatives. Not that
that is so.
That
is so out there. Do you remember when he's as Pigman, he's finally defeated, and his greatest regret is that he did use artificial food additives, having claimed that it was the most.
I forgot. I was like 3 glasses in at that point. Boyd and Brad were over, and we were like, "What is?" It's great. Boyd kept going like, "I still haven't seen boobies," and this is a late 70s, early 80s movie, and they're pretty much
to attract teenagers. You're right. There should be boobies.
Yeah. I did not. It's fun, like the comedy level. Like I didn't find it funny. Obviously, Sam Raimi is the kind of king of horror comedy. Nobody had done it like the way
him and Peter Jackson, I think. Yeah,
but it is
yes.
Yeah, Peter, of course. But Sam was first.
Yeah, with Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
But what do you call it? I mean, Meet the Feebles is not a horror movie, but it's one of the greatest things that's ever been made. But
so fucked up.
I was like, it's more peculiar. I mean, I get the funny what they were trying to do, but I don't know.
I mean, I think it comes under the heading of a sort of satire rather than comedy.
Very. I think it's very, that's very absurd. Yeah. I mean, I as a kid was like pig mask, cop with a shotgun in a meat locker. Is kind of equivalent
is closing in on the sister was,
It was that to me was like as a kid I was like I'll never forget.
Yeah, that whole final sequence it's just fucking, it's ridiculous. Like, why the pig mat? It's the stuff of nightmares, and it's just a really great image, and it goes on for a bit too long, and apparently that chainsaw fight took 5 days, 5 12-hour days to get it right, and they were actually using real chainsaws, and it was actually them. It's ridiculous. There was no health and safety back then. You couldn't get away with that shit now.
The pig head also reminded me, there's a famous one of the great episodes of The Twilight Zone. People turn into pigs.
They were trying to. They all had the pig faces.
Very deep satire, isn't it? And the moment a human becomes a pig, it's supposed to somehow remind us, I think, of the fact that unfairly to pigs, we use them as an example of the grossness and greed and appetite and savagery and bestiality of humans. They are pigs. We are pigs. Feasting on rubbish.
Rod Serling. Possibly the
great man.
Great. I mean, nobody like him ever.
Yeah.
But that said, in 1980, who would have thought that at the same time that movie, as Motel Hell was being made, so was Chariots of Fire. And somebody I know in this room was in that Oscar-winning film.
He was, yes.
Yes, it was a 44-year-old Stephen Fry.
But sadly, he was only 20.
Was that 1980?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So
it's really interesting. Like it was like that was being made at the same time. Your guy was putting glasses of champagne on the edge of turtles.
We went to there was a premiere because I was a student, and there's a comedy club.
You got into college?
Yeah, I know. I cheated. And there was a comedy club called the Footlights, and I was in with Hugh Laurie and Emma Thompson, and they asked the Footlights, the producers of Chariots of Fire, if we would come and do a comedy sketch at the Dorchester, where the dinner for the premiere, which was a royal, command performance, as they're called, a premiere, as you pronounce them in America, or premiere. But
we say premiere.
Premiere, you do. And the French say premiere. Premiere. And anyway, so we were asked to do this performance. And our musical director was rather splendid. We'd just seen the film. He had a perfect ear for music, so he immediately picked up the Vangelis theme, the famous Vangelis theme, and played it to begin our sketch. And we got a good round of applause. They were rather impressed that he could do the music as well. We came on, we started our opening sketch, and everybody suddenly started to leave with the stretch. And what had happened was that news had come through that Reagan had been shot. He was the president.
Oh, my Lord.
It was the one where he famously said to his wife, "Honey, I forgot to duck." Do you remember that? He did get shot by John Hinckley, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because he was in love with
Jodie Foster.
That's right.
And now he's out of jail.
He is, and trying to follow a career as a musician. It's weird. But anyway, there's a slight addition to that, which is kind of Twilight Zone-y in a way, which was that I got to our hotel after it all and called up my mother, as I'd promised I'd do, because she wouldn't know how it had gone. And I said, well, it was fine. We started well. And then I explained it. She said, how bizarre. The last time your father and I were at the Dorchester was about, 20 years ago, she said. And we were at a ball there. And suddenly someone stood up and said,
JFK.
President Kennedy has been shot. Oh, she said, every time a member of our family goes to Dorchester, an American don't go there again. And now, of course, they don't go there because it's owned by the Sultan of Brunei, who is a homophobe with Sharia law, who kills people like me. So
very problematic.
Yeah, it's awkward. That's awkward.
The Dorchester or the Beverly Hills Hotel or the Hotel Bel Air. I mean, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Are there any
all your favorites? All of your favorites.
Wait, so that's set. So wait, you're in the film.
Yes.
Then they're like, we're going to have the premiere. We want you and your friends to perform at the premiere.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a comedy killer right there.
It's sure.
That'll do it.
And do you know what? It's really weird when the girls, and this is related because it's to do with guns, when the two girls in this film are driving and there's suddenly all the fake cows in the road, because he has various traps, sometimes fake cows, sometimes a bear trap.
I guess I'll move these. You know what? That was funny. And she was like, what the hell?
Just an inconvenience.
Flat cows.
But one of the girls has a gun, and I made a little note saying, Joel, can we talk about guns? Because it was just surprising.
Fine, man.
Yeah, I was like, of course, one of them just has a gun, because America.
Well, because
people in Britain just don't have guns.
We don't get it.
Never held a handgun, except once for a documentary I was doing over here. It was a Magnum. But you don't have guns. You have knives.
I have a lot of knives and a lot of swords. I have one gun from 1805. So if someone breaks into my house, I can challenge them to a duel.
Yes.
You have besmirched the good character of my family. 20 paces.
Pushing down the gunpowder.
Electronics. Yeah, it's funny, because obviously you see all the movies we see, so when we see guns, it's commonplace. It's not. And I've worked in Georgia for last year where open carry. I mean,
yes, what are you doing there? You mentioned it before.
Stargirl. Thanks for.
Sorry about that.
It is the third season, but I became a series regular.
Oh, great!
This year.
Oh, I must check that out.
I play Starman.
Jeff Bridges.
I play Jeff Bridges. It's weird,
yeah,
but I play him as the dude from The Big Lebowski. It's bizarre.
So you do this a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Oh yeah, I always
Jeff Bridges. That's what gets him his Oscars.
Yeah, I mean he didn't do that as a young man, but you think like True Grit, or he played
Rooster Cobin.
And then Matt Damon was in that, and he had like a speech impediment. And I read this interview where he was like, I was trying to do it, and so I I said, fuck, and he just like stuffed cotton balls in his mouth and it worked. It was really funny. But that, not to guns. I can't remember.
Jeff Bridges, Georgia.
It's great. Oh, yeah. No, so now you can, in Georgia, in Georgia too. They got rid of the requirement to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon.
What?
They literally, people in Georgia said, hey, don't honk at people because everybody's armed and they might be in a bad mood. I'm like,
my
God. Yeah.
Well,
it's there you go. But you can own a gun in England. You just have to tell them why and what you're doing. If you're a farmer, you can have one, right? I think
shotguns. They often have shotguns for getting rid of crows
and I think it would be extremely difficult to sort of fake that and convince someone that you know.
Can you go hunting in England?
I don't.
It's rather confusing because the hunt still meet, don't they? But I don't think they're allowed to hunt with hounds in the way they used to.
They can't have the hounds grabbing and harming them. They have to. I think you have
what
to.
They do is they have drag hunts where they just drag a cloth smelling of a rabbit or a fox or something, and they can have all the pleasure.
And they're like, "We got the smelly cloth."
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if British people, as much as anybody else, are completely savage or capable of it. I mean, sometimes when we attack other countries for the way they treat their animals, we have to remember that in Shakespeare's day, there were more bear theatres than there were human theatres. People would go and watch bears being tormented and teased and whipped and made fun of.
Bear baiting, right?
Bear baiting, yeah. And cockpits as well. There was a cockpit in Parliament, having these birds tear each other, roosters, we have to say.
And why is it called cockpit today?
Well, it was literally a pit where you would have roosters, and so I guess in the early aeroplanes they were as a kind of like a little cabin area, and it reminded people.
They were like,
they just jokingly called it a cockpit.
But didn't they tie blades to the cock's feet?
Yes, spurs, silvers.
Yeah.
There's Cockspur Street in York, Trafalgar Square, just off Trafalgar Square.
And that's where you could get a good cockspur?
Originally, that's where there was.
I think you still can.
It has the best ones.
It became the street, Cockspur Street, where you would go to get your tickets to New York or elsewhere, because all the liners, so Cunard and Silver Star, if you wanted a ticket on the Titanic or whatever, you would go there. And because I remember P.G. Woodhouse giving an interview in the early 70s saying, when I was a young man, you might think to yourself, I think I'll go to New York. And you would go there and you'd buy a ticket. You didn't need a passport. You would just get on the boat and go. Yeah. It was tremendous. Oh, gosh. Things have mostly got worse in the world.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about passports and travel. It used to be quite good a few years ago.
And then people complain, I was like, oh, that flight was exhausting. I was like, you mean you traveled halfway around the planet in 10 and a half hours and you wound up on the other side of it on a different continent? It was like, if you're... just like 100 years ago, practically, it would be like, oh, you're going to America. See you in a year if you want to.
Exactly.
Could you imagine being in New York and trying to get out to California before trains?
Right.
They exist, but those are the days.
Right.
So wait, I had something to say about cockspurs. No. And I accidentally brought a mini Swiss Army knife to the airport. It was on a keychain. And I'm still pissed.
Yeah, that would have been confiscated.
Yeah, it was confiscated. And I was like, enjoy your fun.
But if you had a gun, they'd be like, right this way, sir.
Yes, a ceramic Uzi would be fine.
Wait, you've never shot a gun in a movie ever? You never had
I've been in movies where there've been guns. I've never actually had to do it myself.
I've done it on stage with a fake gun.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I have to say, I did a westernish thing in Texas, in Willieville, as it's called, Willie Nelson's little western town.
Yeah.
About an hour or so.
Was it behind on its tracks?
Austin. That smelled of weed. And I remember it was all a bit lax, and then halfway through the shoot was when Brandon Lee was killed. And suddenly everything changed. It was a bit like the awful Adam Baldwin thing. Baldwin thing.
What was the name of the movie?
It was actually a TV thing. It was called
The Love Boat. Again, The Love Boat.
No,
it was a TV, like a miniseries.
It was called Welcome to Plum Creek or something. It was made by the same people who made the other Western thing. Oh God, I just remember. Do you know when I first did a movie or a TV thing? I remember an old actor talking about, "Oh, I've shot here before. I remember this location." And I said, "What did you shoot here?" He said, "Oh, I can't remember, some film or other." And I remember thinking, how can you be in a film and forget it? And now all my time is spent going, I know I did it. What was it?
That happens to me.
Me
now.
too.
Yeah.
No, even
I'm
me.
like,
Yeah, even little you.
Like someone reminds me of a play I did, and I'm like, I have literally no recollection to the point where you could be lying. But also, once I'd finish a play, if it was like a small fringe play, I would delete. It was done.
Yeah.
And then
I had a small part in the Steve Martin movie called The Big Year. Remember that? And I was all my scenes were with him and Steven Weber. Very nice. And we're talking about SNL. He's like, yeah, sometimes I'll be watching TV and then there'd be an old episode of SNL on. I'll be like, oh, this sketch is going okay. And then he was like, and then I enter. I had no idea. He was like, I have no recollection of making it. And he was like, there I am.
wow.
Which like people, it's. I guess it's a good sign the career's going well. That you're like, oh, it all kind of blends together.
Yeah.
I always blame to all my head injuries. I was like, oh, that's why you don't remember anything. But I think it's just the sleep deprivation.
Sure.
But to return to that, just to pull that thread back.
Yes.
About guns, I do remember that on the odd occasion on a British film set I've been there, they are very British and rule-bound, and there is an armourer there, and the armourer will come on and say, I have the weapon in my hand, the weapon is now breached, I have 3 blank charges, I am now loading them in, I am closing it, I am giving the weapon to the actor now has the weapon, the safety is... Shut up.
Guys, like you're yelling at me.
No, they do that all the time. But you realise after that Baldwin thing, actually that's not a bad one. It's a bit tedious and a bit full of itself. And Jobsworth, as we say in England, he's obviously very pleased that he's got this job and he's the boss of the occasion as soon as there's a gun on the set. But there is no chance of anybody playing with it.
Well, and now if you look at John Wick, they invented basically
gun fu, they call it.
They used special effects and to CGI to do all the close shooting. So it was never fired. And now like the guns that I get given on set have no working parts. So they're slugs, they're rubber.
Yeah.
And
3D printed almost. Man.
If you did want to kill someone, actually, John Wick's, you would say, let's play the John Wick game, okay? Here you are, here are these shot glasses, and all you have to do is just take a whiskey every time someone's killed, all right? Stop watching. They'll be dead in half an hour.
Yeah.
Body count in those films.
It's cartoonish and wonderful.
I do really enjoy it.
Keanu is fabulous, isn't he?
And
Ian McShane is good.
And he used to get shit. They're like, oh, that guy, the people always give him like, he's just like pretty face, and I was just like, that guy was a comedy star, and then became an action star, and think about how many you have. Bill and Ted.
If you think back to that,
like you pray, like as an actor, you pray to get in anything that anyone will see. Then he has that franchise. Then he goes to The Matrix, one of the biggest of all time, and
Speed, of course,
and Speed and John Wick. I mean, freaking that is. I don't know if any movie star has ever done that many character. I mean, you could make a Tom Cruise
the jumps though
argument, but with Mission Impossible, and Top Gun is only two movies, obviously very far apart. But to be on like 3 bona fide, true, gigantic.
Plus, Cruise is admired, but Keanu is loved. People just adore him.
Yeah, and he's
a sweet man.
He gets like I don't know if there'll be exchange like people like I met him in the airport, and then they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to see a play. What are you doing? And
people have had pictures of them on the tube in London when he's realised it's quicker to jump on the tube than get a private car.
Yeah.
Excuse. But anyway, listen, to round this off, I was going to say, Joel, you need to get back on.
We're still going. We're still going. We still have a lot of questions.
I'm going to bed.
Who gives a shit? You're young. You look young.
Well,
You wanted to round things off.
Yes, what I was going to say is, thank you very much for this, but also I think you need to get back onto MGM or whoever it was and give it another crack.
I would do it. I mean, I guess I'd be, at this point of my age, I'd be the Rory Calhoun character.
Yeah, but MGM's just been bought by Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's fun. I mean, you know that I'm back on E again with a cooking show, and they literally pitched to me like, oh, everybody that was here when you were here, they're all fired. So all those people that you were like in arguments with, they're all gone. I'm like, oh, great, that's coming back. But that's what I'm sure all those MGM people are gone.
Yeah. So give it. I say give them a call. Give it another go. Say Motel Hell 2025.
Great. I got to get some new teeth. Yes, get those Rory Calhoun teeth going. Maybe they're still. I mean, they probably still exist if
his teeth would.
If he wasn't cremated,
that would be so brilliant. And I'm wearing Rory Calhoun.
Doing it here, guys. We're great.
His actual teeth. Wow,
it's a tribute.
This has been fun.
When are we gonna do another one? Question.
Well, next year.
Yes. I think we should do all the Friday the 13th. Just do all 20 hours.
Oh my God.
All 12 of them.
Yeah, and they apparently legally they're all bound up because they want to make the 13th, but there's
finally movement. There's just last week. There's finally some movement. We've been given a couple of tidbits from the court case that there is they're in talks now to because no one's budging between who owns Jason and who owns the actual franchise name, and neither of them are budging. So apparently they're going to settle and come together. Hopefully, so we're looking at finally getting Friday the 13th, the 13th.
So it's a bit like Sony having Spider-Man and Disney
and Marvel
having
and Disney and Marvel. Yeah. It's kind of like that. Yeah. But so hopefully we're looking at finally. It's been over a decade since we've had a Friday the 13th, so that sucks. And maybe a new Freddy Krueger film coming soon. There's talks about that as well. All these things.
Is Robert Englund playing Freddy again?
Well, no one knows. He thinks he's got one more in him. And it's just, it has to be the right script for him to come back, because if they're going to bring it back and if it's going to be him, it has to be really special. But with the way they're bringing back franchises like Scream and Halloween, I think as long as it's in the right hands, they show that it can be done well. These requels, as they like to call them, if you bring back a legacy character but then pass it on to the new generation.
So Elm Street as well, is that?
Yeah, that's the plan. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And there's a new Hellraiser coming. It's all coming. Everything's coming back, but in the new way, the new generation.
Well, my dear fellow, I've got to go. Anyway,
it's our bedtime.
It's been absolute bliss as ever.
Thank you so much.
For a film neither of us would have seen before.
I apologize and congrats at the same time.
Thank you, guys. Take care. There we go. Thank you very much to Stephen Fry once again and Joel McHale once again. That was a lot of fun. Classic. We went off on our tangents, but I really enjoyed it. Hope you kept up with us and learned a couple of things because it's always educational when those two come on. Next week, it's a biggie. It's a biggie, guys. We're going to be covering Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Yes, that is right. I feel a lot of pressure about this one, but then I realised actually there's no pressure. It's just people talking about why they like these films. And I've got the perfect guests for this one. They are first-time guests. They are collectively known as Epic Film Guys, but separately, they are Justin, Jeremy, and Brady. Be ready! And these guys, I love their podcast, Brain Stew. Brain Rot? Brain Stew. See? Match made in heaven or hell. It's awesome, and you guys should check out and subscribe to their podcast before they're on next week, because you'll really love it. It feels like you're just with some friends chatting about films, and it's really, really lovely. So yeah, that's next week, and I'm super excited about it. So those of you who haven't seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space, first of all, what the fuck? Go and watch it so that you can listen to our discussion and know what we're talking about. And if you haven't seen it for a while, watch it again. Actually, do you know, if you watched it this week, watch it again before the episode. It's a classic. Fucking Kyoto Brothers. Yes, please. Thank you. All right, I think that's it then. So if you want to get in touch, come and find me on Twitter. It's Brazy's Steve. Wow, no, it's not. It's not Brady's Stephen Rot. It's Stevie's brain rot. Do you know what? The links are below. So just click on those, and also the Patreon link is there. Get in touch. Bye, rotters. Toodles.